why don't we just dive right into it? You want to start talking about your ex-boyfriend, Yevgeny Prigozhin?
Prigozhin? Yeah, a man of many faces. So first off, I'm going to preface this by saying there has been no official statement by the Russian government or by official authorities or by even actual Russian state media that Prigozhin is confirmed dead. Those words have not been said at all. And it's really interesting that that hasn't happened yet, because he is presumed dead, because it's been confirmed by the federal agency that oversees the airspace of Russia that he was on the manifest and that he boarded the plane. So that was confirmed by authorities. There were 10 people aboard the flight, 7 passengers and 3 crew members. I have all this information. I'll share it with you guys right now. We can start with the first part of what happened. But there were some reports from the people on the ground. I actually, you guys don't know this, so I'm sick right now. But before I was sick, I took time to go out of town and I went to St. Petersburg. And on my way to St. Petersburg, I was like, "Hey, what's the town between Moscow and St. Petersburg?" Oh, it's Tver. Tver is the town that stands between the 400. What is it, like 400 miles, all 700 and something kilometers that it is between Moscow and St. Petersburg. So Prigozhin was actually in Africa, and he flew to I believe to Moscow, and then he was going to go to St. Petersburg. And so this whole thing is really interesting timing. And I will tell you my analysis, because I haven't said this, but I've talked about it, about who I think did it. But first, let's go through what actually happened, because there are reports that there was some sort of explosion from the witnesses that were in this small town in the Tver region, and they saw this happen. So we have the first tweet, fam, if you guys can pull it up. So I said Wagner chief Yevgeny Prigozhin is listed as one of the passengers in this plane crash with no survivors. Initially, he was listed as one of the passengers. This was, like I said, a private jet that was traveling from Moscow to St. Petersburg in the Tver region, and the Russian Federal Air Transport Agency, his name was on the manifest, etc. So that was the picture of the crash. If you can scroll to see the picture, we have actual video later. But I said underneath that this wouldn't be the first time Prigozhin was actually on a manifest and decided to take the other flight. There were 2 planes reported. Now, since all of this happened, the whole situation on the second plane has been completely silent. I haven't seen reports being talked about the second plane. All I know is it landed in Moscow's Vnukovo airport, which is in the northwest part of Moscow. It's the airport where many times Putin flies out of. I either fly out of that airport or Sheremetyevo airport, usually. And so Moscow has 3 big airports. And so that second flight supposedly turned around and landed safely in Vnukovo airport. Okay. So there was a lot of people saying that that on Telegram, many things. One of the rumors was that the Wagner folks were saying that the Russian military shot down the plane. There was talk of drones. There was talk of explosions on the plane. There was talk about a vehicle that sent a missile up to target the plane. None of this has been confirmed whatsoever, but there were those reports that were coming in. But as I was saying, Yevgeny Prigozhin, before in 2019, he was in the Congo. He took he was on the manifest for one plane and at the last minute switched to another. He has a tendency to do this. So many people were saying, "Oh, I'm not going to confirm if he's dead or not until we see his body." So as far as I know, because I was at work earlier this morning, we were saying Yevgeny Prigozhin was on the manifest. He was aboard the plane, but he has not yet been officially confirmed dead. You could say he's presumed dead because all of the passengers on that plane did not make it, but the officials were going through the recovery process of the bodies, and obviously the bodies were not in a state of being easily recognized. So you have to do this whole process, because it's happened many times in other cases where people think it's one person, it happens to be another. So I think it's more of like an official sort of thing. But what I thought was funny, Pasta, and we can talk about this later, or not funny, haha, but like very interesting, was that nobody in the Russian government commented on any of this. And it's understandable in a way, because BRICS has been going on, and BRICS is a huge event for Russia. It's been a huge event forever, since 2009 in its beginning. But this year, more than ever, a lot of people have been paying attention to Russia, to Africa, and that's what this BRICS summit was about. We're going to talk about that. So it's sort of, this whole thing has dragged attention away from BRICS, because it happened yesterday into it. Well, what is it? Today's Thursday, right? Okay, yeah. Yesterday into today and into Friday, it's happening. And these are the last 2 days of the summit. So it's kind of like taking attention away from all the great things Russia is doing and Africa is doing. And it's sort of putting this whole, well, it's so easy to blame Vladimir Putin for this. And I'll tell you why I think he actually isn't involved. But yeah, do you have anything to say before we continue?
I have a shit ton of questions. The first question I have to say is, well, so there's so many moving parts to this, right? I think can you explain to the audience, and it's not my first question would be something else, because I'm more concerned about what's going to happen in Africa with Wagner, right? Because I understand that, we were talking about ECOWAS. ECOWAS seems to be, preparing to start some invasions when it comes to, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso. And from what I understand, Wagner plays a big part of that. Is this going to affect what Wagner does on the ground in Africa? Can the African nations that Wagner has already been rumored to be loyal towards, or the Russian Federation has been loyal towards, can we still count on them with this happening, or is this going to fracture Wagner inside of Africa? And the second part to the question is, why would Putin not want Prigozhin killed? Because I don't think people understand. You said it was not so advantageous for Putin to kill him, because everybody immediately, I mean, shit, fam. The New York Times was out there going, oh, look, he shot down his plane. It looked like they were just using this again. Like, look how crazy Putin is. He's going to execute his own men, that kind of thing. So can you answer those two questions maybe?
Yeah, I can. So in a way I can't, because we really don't know nobody knows what's going to happen in Niger. But what we do know is that the people of Niger and the the government, the junta government that took over, are dead set on not allowing any more foreign intervention. They're dead set on maintaining their own sovereignty and keeping the West out, with Wagner or not. Wagner is a crucial part of that. From what I've been researching, Wagner is going to continue doing what they were doing before. They would just have new leadership. Obviously, this affects a lot of the members that were loyal to Yevgeny Prigozhin and that were upset. But that's precisely it. I think this is where it makes absolutely no sense that Vladimir Putin had anything to do with this. One, you're seeing mainstream media jump on the wagon to blame him on this. A lot of people jump the gun on this, saying, oh, this is so, this is Putin going after, like he always does. Really?
The madman.
Really? I think we have created this cartoonish, villainous version of Vladimir Putin. And I think this is still that type of thinking, even if you don't mean it. For example, thinking that Putin would just off Yevgeny Prigozhin in the middle of the BRICS summit, which he isn't attending in person, but he has been giving statements that have been going viral every single day during each day of the summit. He gave one on Tuesday, on Wednesday, and today as well. And he said many important things. He wouldn't distract. I just don't think Putin would distract from what Russia is doing for multipolarity, for what he calls a new multipolar world order, and what he talks about how Africa is the focus. This is why the event was held in South Africa, in Johannesburg. I just don't see him distracting from that, especially for the fact that with everything happening there and Russia's role in it as well. Also, the reality is, as much as we've created this caricature of Putin being this villain that just goes off and takes revenge on people, really, when is the last time he has done that? If Putin does something, and I don't think Putin is an angel, I think Putin is a politician, and like many politicians, they're going to make decisions that we or civilians find, immoral or some sort of questionable. But I have yet to see evidence that Putin is this figure that goes around offing people and killing them and disappearing them. I think that is something that the Western media has really played into the psyche of people. From what I've seen in this conflict, supports that. So many people have chastised Putin for not being more aggressive towards Ukraine, for not going in further into Ukraine, for not just bombing all of Ukraine and ending this conflict. A lot of people feel that he hasn't been aggressive enough, that he didn't just go, why hasn't he killed, all these people? He needs to go and kill them all. When he didn't kill Prigozhin, people were saying, why doesn't he go and kill him? Why doesn't he go and do this and that? I've never seen evidence of Putin being this emotionally reactionary man that's just going to do that. And if he was going to do that, why would he go and kill 9 other people, or at least 3 people that were completely innocent, which would be the crew of this plane? It just doesn't make sense in a very public spectacle. And also what you mentioned, the fact that Prigozhin being in Niger, and as somebody that, even in spite of his controversial, dealings with the attempted and failed military coup of sorts, because it was more of a military coup directed at Shoigu, it's just he's still doing what was asked of him, and Putin said as much in his recent statement. Will show as well. He did what Putin asked. He did what the president of Belarus asked Alexander Lukashenko when there was this mediation. He has troops in Belarus, which really was pissing off the French. It was pissing off NATO. And then you have Niger, which is also pissing off the French and pissing off NATO. So I think there are 2 possibilities: that Prigozhin did make some sort of deal with the West, and they didn't like that he didn't do what he was asked, and there was some involvement, some retaliation there. Or this is some sort of intelligence operation, whether MI6, whether some NATO contingent,
that was my next question.
The CIA.
Yeah.
Because I just don't see Russia having anything to do with this whatsoever. I think they're just trying to figure out how to go about it. And that is a little weird to me, that there hasn't been that much commentary on this. I think there's a lot of things that we don't know, because we still don't know exactly what happened during the armed attempted coup. So if we don't know that, then that really makes this also less clear.
There's a lot of talk out there that, by the way, somebody did put down that the Durant said that they recovered Prigozhin's phone. Not confirmed, but somebody's saying that they recovered Prigozhin's cell phone from the crew, from the wreckage. I'd like to see more information on that. That could just be talk. But we don't know exactly what happened during the failed mutiny, right? And if it was a situation where the West was trying to bribe Prigozhin to do such a thing, and then they wanted to tie up all loose ends, would it be possible that they had him whacked? And he was also killed, I believe, inside this plane with other Wagner leaders, generals and other leaders. So is there a incentive for the West, the CIA, MI6, like you talked about? What is that exact incentive for them to blow up this plane?
Right. So the other part I didn't talk about is this incentive to turn the factions against each other. You have different factions, as I said before, when this whole coup was happening within the Russian government. You have the military, the Russian Ministry of Defense, and then you have Wagner, and then you have the Russian Foreign Ministry. You have the diplomats that go to the UN. you have the Kremlin and Putin, and there's just different factions in government. And when we saw the failed military coup uprising with Prigozhin, we saw a lot of these factions start going after each other. And a lot of people say, well, Prigozhin exposed a weakness in Putin and blah, blah, blah. I don't really think Prigozhin exposed a weakness in Putin. I think it exposes the fact that Russia, like any other country, has factions that are not always in agreement. And that is a reality. And I think a lot of people put a lot of rose-colored glasses into Russia as if they're the people who support Russia as if they're perfect, and they're not, and they have their own internal issues. And so I think that was what you could look at that as a negative aspect, but the way Putin reacted and the way that the whole thing was quelled really showed that the people of Russia and the government of Russia, in spite of that happening, was able to just kind of sort of take that and make lemonade out of lemons. They put Prigozhin in Belarus. They already had movement in Africa. It was like they went on, but the Western media is who claimed that Putin was made to look weak. And so what I'm seeing here is that there seems to be a vested interest by the intelligence apparatus of the West to create a Russian civil war type of conflict where you turn the military and elements of it, at least vast elements of it, against the government, against Putin. And because if their whole agenda has been to crush Russia, and Putin is a very strong leader, if tomorrow something were to happen to Putin, I would be the first one to say I'm scared for Russia, because Putin is a good leader for the country. Putin is somebody that is stable-minded. He is not Prigozhin, and he is not the former president. He is not somebody that goes off of his emotions. He is somebody that takes calculated, methodical approaches, and almost to the point of over diplomacy, almost to the point of seeming just extremely calm in very tense situations. This is something we're not used to in the U.S. We're used to emotionally reactionary presidents, or presidents that just don't know what the hell is going on. So for us, I think a lot in the West, it's hard to grasp that this is how Putin is. And so I think that it would benefit the West more than anybody, particularly the British and the French right now, to have a civil conflict. And of course, the United States, you can't leave them out, a civil war between Wagner, because the first person that was blamed by the West, and by even many in Russia, not from a negative point of view, but from, oh, he deserved it, was Putin. And this image that Putin is just going to go around like a gangster whacking everybody like it's some mob movie just isn't really validated in the actions of President Putin. And I think it's also a really bad thing when you go on the internet and you say Putin did this because he said this thing about betrayal, a few months ago. So that means Putin killed Prigozhin. You have no evidence. You're accusing a president of killing somebody. And there's so many things that are being said on Telegram, and Telegram is the first place you really shouldn't trust when it comes to a lot of this information, because it's just a lot of opinions of people who think that they're somehow war experts. And I'm not a war expert, but I can tell you what I see that Putin has been doing during this whole conflict. It just does not support this idea that he would just off Yevgeny Prigozhin. What it seems more plausible was that somebody wanted to stir the pot and stir conflict between the military apparatus of Wagner and the Russian Federation, the Russian government led by Putin, and to get people angry and cause division and to really distract from what Russia is doing. I don't believe in coincidence when it comes to politics. When it comes to what we're seeing right now with BRICS, this happens literally Wednesday night, the second day on Wednesday, the second day of BRICS. I'm just not buying this.
Yeah. It's definitely kind of confusing, I think. I know like a lot of people who are not too deep into what's going on. Like I told you, I had a conversation with somebody yesterday, and they did mention the fact that, Putin was going to be, that it almost just appears that Putin was taking revenge for when they were having the failed mutiny. And there were some, that Prigozhin had some jets shot down and that was something that, Putin was holding on to. At least that's the kind of like, the narrative they're trying to put out there. It's very interesting. It's hard to grasp. It's like I'd still like to see some confirmation too as well. We don't know for sure if he's alive or dead, but yeah, fam, this was kind of crazy yesterday. Breaking news. We kind of talked about it a little bit briefly, but still just waiting to hear, more about what's what. So I'm just eager to find out the truth if we ever do find the truth.
Yeah, so let's just quickly go through the rest of the information that we do have, because there's a lot of information that we do have, some videos. So whatever was next on the docket, you can put it up, and so like I said, he was listed on the manifest. This is video. If you can just show the video of the plane, actually, the first one especially, crashing in the sky of Tver. There it is. Yeah. I don't know why it makes it so small. It's kind of hard to see, I guess.
Yeah, it's not letting him click on it. Every time it makes you click on big, it's going small. Yeah, it's weird. Just play the second one, maybe, and we'll see. You can
maybe
see
the second one.
Yeah. What?
Same problem. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll find another one real quick. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll
it's just video of that.
The second part. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, these the rescuers were at that point just rescuing the bodies, and they were saying that they were going through the identifying the bodies at that point. But again, like, no actual identification has been made of Prigozhin. So if you want, we can go to the second one as well. And like, it's kind of crazy because a lot of people on the internet jumped and said Prigozhin's dead, and like, this is what I mean. I'm gonna do like a series
really
with other
I can
people
do
on
this.
this.
You can see it.
Just like, yeah.
Fam, you were in this town?
So it does seem. I passed through this town. I went to a gas station here literally a few days ago before this happened. And I was like, oh, what goes on in this town?
Look at that thing falling.
Пиздец, это беспилотник. Сбили, бабахнуло 2 раза, взорвалось, падает. Ты посмотри, падает.
Graham, can you translate? Oh my God.
No, the plane is falling.
Yeah.
Blech.
Have they found out, fam?
Где, блядь, бабахнет?
Have they
Куда
determined
упал?
what
А там
it
он
was
куски.
exactly?
Пиздец.
Have they what? I'm sorry?
There it is. Have they determined what
Горим около фирмы.
what caused the plane to go down
Не
yet?
видать нихуя. Вон,
No.
около фермы.
As far as we know, no.
Горим.
That's the thing. That's really what we need to hear. What exactly caused the plane to go down? Because if it is
Не
discovered,
пойму, у фермы
and I
нет.
think, and I sort of like have a feeling that could possibly be why they've been silent, is because they're trying to figure out who done it,
Why
like,
it went down?
what happened, why it went down, and if it is something that is outside of Russia, they're not going to say a word until they know who, because they don't want to like spook anybody, right? They want to make sure they get all the answers they need. This is what people who are outside of Russia don't understand about Russia and how they operate. Like, they don't do things like we do things in the West, where it's just very, we know how mad you are, we know we're so super reactionary, down from the people to these governments. Like, they're a lot more, and we always say this, Pasta, when we play chess, they play chess like Russians and we play chess like Americans. It's just a completely different way of looking at things. And Russians are some of the best chess players in the world, and it's for a reason. And so when you look at this like that, you start understanding, like, it might be weird that they're quiet, but they're also trying to get everything together. You don't want to say things and that may give out information that you're onto somebody. So there's still a lot we don't know about this, which is why I roll my eyes when I see people making a lot of like assertions. We can all give an analysis, but at the end of the day,
Yeah.
We don't really have all the details right now. So there's only,
And-
you should only analyze what you know so far and then say, well, maybe I think this could happen. But a lot of people just make, assertions. And again, his body has not been found yet.
Yeah.
So that's why some people
For
are
the
like
audience-
going that route, like, he's alive. They're just hiding him,
Well, the people are saying that. That is the theory, saying, well,
Yeah.
he's better off dead, right? Like, now he can just go on with his
Yeah.
life, that he doesn't have to worry about Putin coming after him. People are making that insinuation that he's faking his death too as well. And for the audience to understand out there, when we talk about chess, Fiorella plays chess like a Russian. Like, if you go in too quick, too fast, her brother, Jonny, plays chess like an American. It's just on the go, trying to put you in pressures, trying to attack, where Fiorella will let you walk into the trap door and then grab you. I play like the both of them, like a little bit of combination of both, but that's how the chess playing is going in our household. Fiorella has beat me the one time we played. The second time we played, the board got messed up. That's all I
Anyway,
got to say there.
so
We got the next section,
yeah.
or we still got more?
We still got more. That's why I want to go through it quickly.
Good.
Yeah, so these are all the names of the people that were there. Dmitry Utkin was his right-hand man. So that was the other person that was key that was also on there. Now, this plane was owned by Wagner, by specifically Prigozhin. He owned 2 planes. Like I said, the other one supposedly landed in Vnukovo airport. Again, we haven't heard anything about that since. That is the thing that is very like, okay, why haven't we heard? There is an investigation, so probably they're keeping it mum. These are all the actual passengers, and then the crew is on the second tweet, so you guys can see their names there. It's a total of 10 people, and like I said, I just don't see somebody like Putin going and killing all of these people just to get to Prigozhin. He could have done it a completely different way if he was that person. I don't think that this is a guy that's going to go take revenge on Prigozhin. Look, Putin takes stock in doing what he does for Russia as a whole. This is something that's real. This is something that's been said by many people who know Putin, but also just been what's I've observed. Putin isn't going to do things as Putin to kill somebody because he's mad. He's a president of Russia, and we just don't have this concept in our heads that this is possible. I think with what we've known presidents to be in the U.S. I mean, we've had a few that you could say have put the country, first above themselves, but for us, it's hard to see that. But for a lot of people that have, known Putin, he's not the guy that's just going to go off somebody because the guy pissed him off. Like he's thinking about Russia as a whole. And in my opinion, that's how you should lead as a leader of such a big country that is in a vulnerable position right now in the world, where we're on the brink of nuclear war. You can't just act like this because it could really set a lot of things off. And I just don't think that this analysis of Putin is correct. I do think that it is a Western influenced analysis where we think this guy is just going to go whacking people like an Italian mobster fam. He's not Italian. He's Russian.
Yeah. Let's get to the next video. This is cool.
Citing the country's Federal Air Transport Agency.
Yeah, so we can just
the
hear
Wagner
this.
military group chief Yevgeny Prigozhin was listed as a passenger on a plane that's crashed in Russia's Tver region to the northwest of Moscow. A criminal case has been initiated over the incident, citing an article about violations of traffic safety. Emergency services say 10 people are on board, including 3 crew members and 7 passengers. At least 8 bodies have reportedly been recovered so far. Well, let's cross live now to RT correspondent Roman Korsarev for more on this. Roman, good evening to you again. Obviously, as we know, we just heard that Prigozhin was listed on the flight manifest. What more can you tell us about this crash?
Well, despite all the frenzy in the social media and in the news, we still have no confirmation of whether the head of the Wagner private military company, Evgeny Prigozhin, is either dead or alive. But we do have reports from Russian media that his name was listed as part of the crew, as part of the passengers, and it was confirmed by Russian aviation authorities as well that he was on the flight from Moscow to St. Petersburg. Once again, at this point in time, these are all speculations that Yevgeny Prigozhin was on this flight. Now, it was a private business jet flight from Moscow to St. Petersburg. There were 10 people on board, including 3 crew members. So far, Russian authorities have discovered 8 bodies. However, we still have no confirmation that Yevgeny Prigozhin was actually there. Now, we have heard witness accounts from the people on the ground that they heard a couple of explosions there, and before the plane crashed, like I said before, they heard a couple of explosions, and afterwards the wing and the stabilizer of the aircraft fell off, and it crashed near an abandoned farm. It's right between Moscow and St. Petersburg. Now, of course, there is a huge media frenzy right now in Russia. People are trying to find out whether Yevgeny Prigozhin was on this flight or not. There are many conflicting accounts as well, because apparently this private business jet company, they chartered 2 flights for Yevgeny Prigozhin. And one of them had safely returned back to Moscow after the first plane had crashed. So once again, at this moment in time, these are all just speculations, and we are waiting to hear from the authorities. However, we do know that Russian investigative committee have already launched a criminal inquiry into this case about the crash. We do know that the crash had happened. We just don't know whether Evgeny Prigozhin was on it or not. Now, in case for those of our viewers that don't know who Yevgeny Prigozhin is, he's the head of the Wagner private military company, who were instrumental in some parts of the special military operation of Russia in Ukraine. He was instrumental in liberating of the town of Artyomovsk, also known as Bakhmut, and other operations as well. Now, at this moment in time, Russian aviation authorities are still waiting to confirm. So anything, any news that are coming in from any witness accounts, we are waiting confirmation from officials whether Yevgeny Prigozhin was actually on the flight that was
All right, we can cut it there.
that crashed between Moscow.
Just for the sake of time. Basically, little has changed since this report was made. The only thing that's changed is that the Federal Aviation Agency has confirmed that he was boarded the plane, that he is on the manifest, and that there was also not a violation of any traffic laws. So initially that was reported. There wasn't. That's pretty much the same. We still don't have confirmation of his physical body, though. So that's that. I think we have little else, right? I think that's almost all. The last most important thing. Let's just go straight to the video. This is an article that talks about Putin, what Putin said, but we actually have the video. So why don't we just go straight to the video and end this section and go to the next one? And we will do that. This is Putin, and I'll go ahead and I'll read. This is what he said. He gave some comments about Yevgeny Prigozhin when he was asked. I've known Prigozhin for a long time, since the early 90s. He was a man of a complicated fate, and he has made some serious mistakes, but he always achieved the necessary results, both for himself and when I asked him to, for the common good, like in recent months. He was a talented man, a talented businessman who worked not only in our country and showed great results, but also abroad. For example, in Africa, worked with oil and gas there, gems and precious metals. Just yesterday, as far as I know, he came back from Africa. So a lot of people have been trying to analyze Putin's, how he sounded, how he looked. You're muted. You're muted.
He's a cold-blooded
yeah.
gangster, fam. That's what they're saying.
I just, logic wise, I don't see the evidence for that. And I think that they're trying to keep a lot of things until they know exactly what happened. That's just my opinion on the matter. But yeah, I don't see Putin being involved. But that was the comment by Putin. And then he later on went to say he has condolences for the families of the victims. And, yeah. So, I mean, he can't really confirm. He didn't say, nobody has said Prigozhin is officially dead yet. Again, because his body has been found. This is something that is really a lot of people. This is why they're going down these rabbit holes, because it's like, where's his body? How can we not confirm yet? What's going on? Why the delay? So there's a lot of questions that have come up. So this is something that is still developing, and we're going to keep talking about it, I think, for a minute.
Yeah. Wow, so many things to unpack. My mind was just kind of wandering off, thinking about what could have happened. You know what I'm saying? So many different things, right?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, listen, Wagner is a mercenary group. They are paid killers, right? They are a paid mercenary group, hired for war. You can just always assume that, the West was going to always try to pay, Putin and whatnot to turn these guys, So, I mean.
Yeah. I think that's the smartest assumption we can make.
Yeah. Yeah. So many different assumptions. So I don't think we can make an assumption. We have to just sit back and wait. But a lot of people are taking the bait right off the bat, fam. Putin's a cold-blooded gangster. He's a killer, and that's what he did. He whacked what he did. That's what they're trying to say.
And look at Latin America. Like, look which countries are cooed. It's the countries that aren't able to have their military protect the governments. And so the military has always been an in for those who want to overthrow a leader. So I don't put it past them at all. The goal has been always for the Western intelligence to get rid of Putin. They have said it every time. We want to remove Putin. And I think a way to remove Putin would be to turn people against him. The thing is, they're going to have a really hard time doing that because Putin has a really high approval rating, far higher than Joe Biden's. We haven't even talked about Joe Biden. We don't even have time to talk about Joe Biden. I mean, I'm sure you've talked about Joe Biden, but it's just, it's insane what's going on right now with Joe Biden.
Yeah, it is nuts. So it is nuts.